Our next speaker is Nuzee Nawaz. Nuzee is a wellbeing advocate and coach. She empowers frustrated working mums to break through their burnout so that they don't just survive, but thrive in career, business, and life. Today, Nuzee is presenting on Banish Burnout, how to not just survive, but thrive in career, business, and life. Please join me in welcoming Nuzee to the stage.
Thank you, Natalie. According to the Australian HR Institute, in their 2019-22 workplace report, 68.5% of Australians reported that they were burning out at work. Who here has ever felt exhausted, broken, or burnt out? Who here knows the signs and symptoms of burnout? Workplace burnout syndrome is a real diagnosis. The World Health Organization classifies burnout as an occupational phenomenon. The WHO says burnout is resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. And it is characterized by 3 dimensions. 1, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion. 2, increased mental distance from one's job or increased cynicism towards one's job. 3, reduced professional efficacy. Who here would like to banish the burnout? Despite organizations making employee well-being a top priority in the recent years, I must say the employee well-being challenges across the globe have been persistent. For any change to be sustainable, I believe that there is something else that must evolve. This pandemic is something that I'm very passionate about, as despite my extensive career as a HR professional, the nature of my profession presupposed that I put people first. And from time to time, this came at my own expense, resulting in burnout. As such, I have taken my 14 years of professional knowledge, skills, and lived experience, and in my capacity as a well-being advocate and coach, have distilled it into a program to empower busy working moms to break through their burnout so that they don't just survive, but thrive in career, business, and life. Let's banish burnout. And why am I so passionate about this topic, you may ask? Well, the statistics are alarming. A study conducted in the recent years revealed that the Great Resignation did not happen in Australia, but the Great Burnout did. 62% of Australian workers reported they were burning out, compared to 48% globally. And 66% of Australian managers suffer burnout, compared to 53% globally. Prime-aged workers between 25 to 55 suffer the greatest burnout, with women more likely to suffer burnout than their male counterparts. Whilst burnout is an occupational phenomenon, the effects of burnout can wreak havoc in one's career, business, and life, as it did mine. It's time to banish this burnout. Let me take you back to 2020, In the thick of the pandemic, I was in a high-paying corporate role. I had the title, I was making lots of money, I had a very influential role, and I had heaps of challenge to stimulate my brain. I felt accomplished because at that time, that was my definition of success. But inside, I was driving myself to a very dark place. I was working 16 to 18 hours a day, at least 4 times a week, dragging myself to the weekend just to do it all over again. I just could not switch off. I could not sleep. Even on a weekend, I found myself waking up, checking my work email. I kept pushing myself to do more, be better, because that was the only way I knew how to get ahead. And one night, I found myself breaking down in tears, holding on to both my kids. Because that night, my 18-month-old daughter had a temperature, and my 4-year-old son had a nosebleed. And they needed their mama. They needed me to stay with them. And I must say, I could not be fully present for my kids that night because I had a work meeting to get to at 12 a.m. in my time zone. Now, you see, there were absolutely no boundaries between work and life for me at the time. I was trying hard to settle my kids with no success and increasing frustration because I knew there was no way that I was going to log into that meeting that night. Then I felt the need to explain myself to my overseas counterparts. I cried that night. I cried because I had mom guilt. I cried because I had no energy left in my tank. I was so exhausted. I cried because I felt angry that I had to explain to anyone what I was doing in my own personal time at 12 a.m. I cried because I felt pulled in so many directions. I cried because I felt like a victim with no choice. I didn't see a way out. Over the next few days to weeks, I remember I looked at my babies and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to blink and these kids will be grown up and I'm going to miss most of their childhood. Because with the limited time I had with my family, I couldn't engage with them in any meaningful way. And that thought itself was so painful for me. I remember sitting down to watch some Netflix with my husband one night, whilst crazily scrolling on my phone, checking my work email. And my husband looked at me and he went, "You're physically here with me, but mentally somewhere else. No, I don't want to do this with you." And he walked out. No wonder, because I was romancing with my phone instead. It was affecting everything. It was affecting my relationships, my work, my family, and most of all, my own well-being. Then it dawned on me, I was burnt out. all too often, I was feeling completely depleted, exhausted. I was experiencing increased cynicism towards my job. And being the high achiever that I am, the last thing I wanted was for this to result in reduced professional efficacy. So that night, I realized that something had to change. That nothing changes if nothing changes. That I had to be the change that I wanted to see in the world. I asked myself, why survive when I can thrive? It's time to banish the burnout. Having navigated my burnout and with a restored energy and a deeper understanding of the signs and symptoms of burnout, I am now on a mission to empower busy working moms who are just like me to break through their burnout so that they don't just survive, but thrive in career, business, and life. So if this is resonating with you, and you too are ready to thrive in your career, business, and life, let's connect and book in your obligation-free complimentary discovery call. Let's together banish the burnout, shall we?